and Paul got me started going to California, and he passed me on to Joe Tweedy, and Joe Tweedy was written up in National Geographic, and for years and years I stayed on that operation out there in California. So I've had a lot of good mentors, and a lot of them taught me the right way.
You know, I have to mention, some of you probably know Leo Kiefer. I knew Leo Kiefer and from St. Charles, and I had a similar experience helping him extract honey, and he would extract mine. And he was just a no-nonsense guy, and he did teach me a lot in the early 80s. And it's fun to hear from a guy like that, just no nonsense, no technical stuff, just down-to-earth, practical beekeeping. And I think I kind of got that in my DNA, not to try to get fancy and big explanations, but just the basics, the bee biology and just the basics of beekeeping. I don't think I know a lot more now than I did when I started. After the first year, of course, you learn a lot in your first 12 months of beekeeping. 200,000 things will do that to you. But Leo taught me that just stick to the basics.
I think there's two other people I really should mention. They're both deceased, but Charlie Hoffman helped me a lot. He was he made his living on about 700 colonies of bees. And then there was Leroy Borland, who helped me when I became a commercial beekeeper. That he helped me a lot also. Leroy Senior, not Junior.
Thank you all. I think what's really key message that I heard from this too is just mentors, right? You know, everybody learns from joining, helping, just doing, and the mentorship is really the best way of doing that. We have a strong mentorship program with SEMBA, so if you're looking to really learn, really to grow as fast as you can, find a mentor at SEMBA or any one of our Graybees.
Let me just add one little bit of interesting information. When we went to the beekeepers' meetings, like this one, the Southeastern Minnesota meetings, they were always a dinner meeting on a Saturday afternoon. When we went, it was all commercial beekeepers at that time. There may have been one or two hobbyists, but basically it was all commercial beekeepers, and so you really got in on a lot of that kind of information. But we always dressed. The guys wore suits, and the women wore dresses and heels, and it was a very fancy-dancy meeting.
Airplanes used to be like that too, right?
Yeah, so we'll have a dress code for the next meeting, for the end of the meeting and all that. So men in tuxes, women in black dresses, so nothing short of that.
Okay, there was something else too. Besides other mentors, besides Danny, okay, and Tom Bramble, okay, and Gene, okay, they all helped. But there was another thing, is when we started, in 2004 or something like that, we were having meetings out in the
facilities room.
The maintenance shed, right?
Yeah, where the big smoke.
And there were 6 of us, and that was a good turnout. Okay, it wasn't always the same 6. Sometimes we got up to 9. Okay, and that was in what, 2003, 2004, something around in there. Okay, so things have grown. People have become more aware. Things are a lot better. Well, there's more people involved, let's put it that way now, which also helps significantly. Get a mentor.
Yep.
That's the main.
Very good. So most people do not react well, to the sight of a swarm of bees. So were you afraid of bees when you started, and how did you overcome this fear if you were? So if you weren't afraid of them, no need to pipe in, but anybody afraid of bees when they started, and how did they overcome that fear? No?
I just stayed away.
I started with 2 nukes the first year. I really had no mentor, just was going to do it. I didn't know a drone from a worker to nothing. And they come in one box, and I transferred it to the 2 hives. You talk about somebody scared, but You just do it. As far as swarms, that didn't bother me after doing those first 2 nukes.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many people in the room that are afraid of bees. Someone said to me when I was getting started, either you'll have bees for a year or 2, or you'll have bees for the rest of your life. If you're afraid of them, you won't be at it for long. And I've never met a beekeeper that was afraid of honeybees. And most of the people here have been doing it for a long time, I'm sure. And if you're a newbie, you're probably the same. You'll either have bees for a year or 2, or you'll have them for the rest of your life.
Yep. Go ahead,
There was a thing. I was not afraid of bees, generally speaking, but there was one hive, one time, that if they're going to be like that, they can be like that, and I'll let them die over the winter. I didn't care. I was not afraid of bees in general, but that one hive, I wasn't going near.
He left the inner cover and the outer cover out for the winter.
just by accident, of course. So as a beekeeper, this is something I notice when I'm driving around, I'll see flowering plants and trees, but as a beekeeper, do you become more sensitive or more in tune to nature, the weather, and the environment? Let's start with Jim, way down in the end there.
It definitely has given me more of a sensitivity to the environment, but I've been through so much pesticide over the years that it wakes you up. For instance, I've noticed that, especially this summer, I've never seen a summer where after a rain I did not see angleworms. And I think this summer I've seen 3. Something's happened.
What's an angleworm?
Angleworm or a night crawler? Usually after a rain, you see night crawlers crawling on the blacktop in a parking lot or highway or street. I have to walk 2 blocks to get from my house to my honey house, and it's in town. And I think I think I've seen 3 night crawlers or angleworms in that period of time all summer long.
We talked about the lack of diversity of forage for honeybees, and I think those of us who've been doing it for a while can attest to that. Other than the white sweet clover and the yellow sweet clover in the ditches, you hardly see a flowering plant anywhere anymore. The dandelions perhaps, but there used to be a lot more wildflowers and just flowers in nature. And now I don't see that.
I became a lot more aware of the spring weather starting in about the middle of March through July 1st, because that was the most important time for our spring buildup, making divides, putting in packages, and the weather really does make a big difference on what you can and cannot do. By the way, I don't think that angleworms are native to the United States. I'm pretty sure they are. It's a real problem because in our forests, when I was a kid, you would walk and you'd sink down 6-8 inches in a lot of places because the leaves would just pile up and they would slowly decompose. Now, they fall in the fall, by spring, late spring, they're just about all gone, and they've been worked up by the worms.
Yes, I've become more sensitive, but some of that was because I was forced to be. Because every time we took a ride someplace in the car, it was, oh, look at the dandelions, it's only March, my gosh, there's dandelions, isn't that wonderful? And of course, I couldn't see anything about dandelions to get excited about. But I learned about the clovers and all the different, the linden trees, and when this one bloomed and that one bloomed, so I was sort of forced into it, so yes, I am more sensitive to it.
I'd just like to say a little bit about, we are more aware of the environment if you're a beekeeper. And my earlier love, and it still is pheasant hunting. And I don't know, when's the last time you saw a pheasant? And talk about being a native or an immigrant. You know that pheasants are an immigrant and bees are an immigrant. They have everything in common. They need the same environment. I've got a little cap here that says, honeybees forever, habitat. And that's a key, it's a key with honeybees. To have everybody interested in bees, what we should really be interested in is flowers and the environment. We don't need more beekeepers, we need more flowers.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Gene. Next question is, what kind of ongoing education do you utilize? What beekeeping journals or books do you read?
I get the American Bee Journal, and I read that. They have a lot of information on there on the mites and how to control them. And I also have some other older books that I look at once in a while.
Nobody else?
Yeah, I read the Bee Journal, and that's about it.
I read both the Bee Journal and the Culture, and I dial stuff up. I'm curious on the internet, even though I'm pretty illiterate with that internet. But I'm always seeking. I'm always willing to spend my time looking at anything new that can happen out there, especially in the bee world or in the environment. They mentioned a couple things that aren't native to the United States. They also mentioned flowers. But the biggest flower that I think used in Europe is the sweet clover. And our government won't let us plant sweet clover in CPR land. I tried, but they told me if I put it in on some of my own land, they would make me plow it up, especially if I get some subsidy from them. So I have issues with anything that's detrimental to our society, whether it's pesticides or it's flowers that they're controlling, especially if they can't give me a good reason behind it. I mentioned I got a 180-pound crop. That was in 1988. At that time, they could put sweet clover in CPR land. You can't now.
You certainly become more aware of rain and sun during the honey flow. I don't know if it was 88 or not, but long about then. I've got some pictures to prove it. I needed a step ladder to get my honey supers to the top of my hive. Never seen anything like it, but it didn't rain a drop for 2 months. It was 100 degrees every day. And the bees are working at the crack of dawn, and they're working, and there's nothing stopping them. On a rainy day, the bees aren't making any honey. On a sunny day, they can make 15 pounds in one day, one hive.
On those years when it's dry for long periods of time like that, the alfalfa, they don't cut it because it doesn't get high enough. And that's really makes a huge difference in the size of the crop around this part of the country.
Ongoing education, I use the internet, I read the American Bee Journal, and whenever possible I talk to Marla Spivak.
Hey Ed, do you write anything or any articles or something like that?
Me?
Well, yeah, I write articles, but it's not on beekeeping. It's on how to make bee equipment. There's a difference.
Okay.
I don't have to worry about getting stung.
Another question then, please, is how has beekeeping changed from the time that you got into it to now? So if you take a look at when you started versus beekeeping today, what has changed?
The biggest thing that I've noticed is I have a terrible time keeping queens alive. They failed terribly today, and I do not have the total answer. I got a lot of questions myself on that. But I used to keep bees, and when I was keeping bees in mass, I used to replace 20% a year, and every year I had more colonies. Today, if I had 20%, if I replaced only 20% a year, I would be out of business real quick.
During World War II, bee equipment, there were a lot of things you couldn't buy, but bee equipment was one thing that the government said you could buy. buy all you wanted. And so